Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of the Ultimate Christianity Iceberg. If you guys don't already know, I'm your host, Dre. And basically what this series is we go through the Ultimate Christianity Iceberg. Now, if you don't know what an iceberg is, I recommend go watch my part 1. But basically, it's just a whole lot of terms that the lower you go down the iceberg, the more unknown they are. I also want to apologize because I actually missed some entries in the first part because it turns out I was actually using the wrong iceberg. But it's okay though, I'm going to include those ones into this one. Before we get started, make sure you guys follow all my socials and go follow my podcast. And without further ado, let's get right into this. So the first entry is Plymouth Brethren. The Plymouth Brethren is an early Christian movement that started in the late 19th century in Plymouth, England. Now with them, they have a desire to return Christianity back to the way it was. They reject things such as denominational structures, and they heavily emphasize the authority of scripture. Now, John Nelson Darby, which was one of the most influential people of this movement, he developed something called dispensationalism. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce that. You guys can see the word somewhere up here. So basically, it's just this framework that divides biblical history into distinct periods, or what they say, dispensations. Now, fun fact, the Brethren are actually divided into two groups. One called the Open Brethren, which can cooperate with other Christians, and then the Exclusive Brethren, which they maintain a strict separation from other Christians. Second up, we got Baptist. Now, Baptist is one of the largest Protestant denominations, known for their belief that in order to get baptized, you have to be fully submerged under the water. Now, the Baptist movement actually started in the early 17th century, which was influenced by the Puritan and Separatist movements. Now, John Smith, who was an early leader, is credited for laying down the basic foundations of the Baptists. Next up, we got the Mark of the Beast. Now, the Mark of the Beast is a term that comes from the book of Revelations. If you go to Revelations chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, it talks about a mark being placed on the right hand or the forehead, which signifies allegiance with the beast. Now, a number often associated with this is the number 666, which nowadays has like 10 million different interpretations. However, there is a theory that Emperor Nero, if you were to translate his name into Hebrew and you were to calculate it numerically, it would equal 666. Now, obviously, Nero being an emperor of Rome and the Romans enslaving the Jews, you could see how there's probably a correlation with the beast being Emperor Nero or the Roman Empire, let's say. Next up, we have INRI, or INRI. Basically, this stands for the Latin phrase, sorry for my pronunciation on this, but it actually stands for Jesus Nazarenus Rex Ludeorum, which translates to Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. So basically, when Christ got crucified under Pilate, they inscribed INRI into the cross in a way to mock Jesus, saying that he's the King of the Jews because that's what he claimed. Next up, we have the First Council of Nicaea. Now, the First Council of Nicaea was held in 325 AD. It was actually assembled by Emperor Constantine at the time. Now, the primary purpose was to address the Arian controversy, which was basically a theological debate on whether Jesus was a created being or he was of the same substance of the Father. So along with this debate came the Nicene Creed, which basically affirms the Trinity in a sense. And the Nicene Creed has also become a foundational text for Christians. Next up, we have Paul. Now, Paul, originally known as Saul of Tarsus, is probably one of the most influential characters in Christianity. Fun fact, he was actually born a Pharisee and he actually persecuted Christians. However, if you go to Acts 9, you actually get to see the conversion of Paul when he was on a road to Damascus, in which he was blinded by a light, which was Jesus. Through this conversion, Paul wrote many letters. He wrote letters to the Romans, the Galatians, the Corinthians, basically showing how to run their church. For the last one, it is Mary cheated. Now, obviously, this is a really big stretch, but basically what it is, it's actually an explanation for the virgin birth. Coming from my research, there was many ways to explain the virgin birth, and turns out some people figured that Mary actually cheated. And in order to, make her look like the mother of the Lord, they just said it was a virgin birth. Now, obviously, I don't believe this, and I kind of hope you don't. I'm just here doing my job. And that concludes part 2 of the Ultimate Christianity Iceberg. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Head over to my podcast channel and make sure you guys stay tuned. And with all that out the way, may God be with you all.